Hello, it's the first day of April, and I want to start the month off by decluttering some books. These are the books I decided to get rid of in March, and this is either I picked up the book and realized I didn't need it, or I tried reading the book and I just did not want to continue. The first book I'm getting rid of is actually two books about Edgar Allan Poe. I realized when I was doing my library tour that I had way too many books about Edgar Allan Poe on my shelf, and I decided these two are kind of redundant. This is kind of a graphic novel without too many pictures. It's okay. I don't see myself really reading this book, so I'm just gonna unload it. It's heavy and bulky, and it's not something I need to keep. And also this book, this one I got for free, and I realized it was just a duplicate of the other book I had, and it wasn't as good quality. It's too much of a mass market paperback, and it says it's an enriched classic, but I feel like all the extra information in here is in my other books, so I don't see any need to take up space on my bookshelf. The next book I'm getting rid of is, this was kind of a shock for me because I loved this book when I first read it many years ago. I think it was 2018 or 2019 when I first read it, and I loved it so much, and it had a huge impact on me. And I tried rereading it this month, and I just could not get through it. I was so irritated by it. So I don't know. I guess I've changed a lot as a person, maybe as a reader. This is the last book I've kept by Leanne Moriarty. I've gotten rid of all her other books. They just don't work for me. I don't like the talk. I guess so much talk going on in the minds of her characters, and it just kind of started grating on me. And since I already know what happens, I remember the plot. I don't need to keep it or finish this book. This next book I decided to get rid of. I started reading this book. I read the first chapter, and it was horrifying, but like not in a bad way. Like I don't want to read this anymore kind of book. It was just so disturbing and violent. I just don't. I don't want to read this book again. So that was a trigger for me. The next book, I read half of this book, The Marriage Portrait. I read the other book by this author, Hamnet, and it was okay. It was okay. It was good. I read it through. I enjoyed it enough. I didn't keep it, but I wanted to try this new book, and this book was very boring, and I just did not care at all about any of the characters, and I just realized. I think it was a little more than halfway that I just did not care anymore to keep reading this book. And whatever happens to them. I don't care what happens to them, but I need to move on with my life. The next book, this is a arc that I got, and I read a good chunk of this book, maybe a third. And the writing style was so odd. I didn't feel like I was reading a book. I felt like I was, how do I explain it? It was almost like a screenplay. It was just stuff happening. And it was just a very long running description of things happening. And I just couldn't keep going. It was kind of, I don't know, it was really hard to get into this book. And then this is another book I've been wanting to read for a long time, and I finally started reading it, and it was just so weird. I did not like it. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like the characters. This is another book I decided that I just could not keep going. I'm going to give up. These two books I decided to get rid of when I was doing a book tour of my red bookshelves, and I just realized there's no reason to keep these books. I didn't like The Pearl that much. It was disturbing and weird. And I did not like this book either. I didn't like the way it was written. It's not my favorite John Green book. And I think I was only keeping it because I got this exclusive collector's edition. And it was so pretty and new looking. And I thought, oh, my kids will probably want to read this book at some point. But you know what? If they want to read it, they can get it from the library. I don't want to read it again. I actually read a better version of this story. It was called The Life of Ivan Isenko, The Invisible Life of Ivan Isenko, which is a very similar story about a boy in a hospital dying from a genetic defect. And it was very similar to this book, but it was so much better. So I think I'm just going to part with this one. And then this book I was so excited to get, and I started reading it, and it was so mediocre. I just didn't, like, I read the little entries by my favorite authors, and they were okay. So I don't need to keep going. This book is not as good as I thought. And then finally this book I finished all the way through, and it was good, but then I really hated the ending, and so I'm not going to reread this book. I've got through it, and then I can say I read it. I can check that off my list as a famous book. So thank you for watching.